those words are ashes in my mouth now. What I was doing was stating what China had said it would do, and it had signed up to that in an international treaty called the Joint Declaration, lodged at the UN, and to be absolutely blunt, it's completely reneged on that 100%. And as several newspapers have been saying, and magazines, here and abroad, it's in the process of turning a once free and open society, arguably the freest and most open in Asia, into a police state.
Do you think it was inevitable that that was going to happen? Did you know at the time, in the back of your mind, that it was inevitable?
No, I didn't know or think it was inevitable. And it's true to say that for maybe a dozen years after we left in 1997, under Jiang Zemin and Hu Jintao, the first two presidents after 97, things went on reasonably well. There was too much interference. There was an attempt then to introduce a national security law, which failed because of the huge demonstrations in Hong Kong. And the Chinese went back on their commitments to develop democracy. But by and large, until 2012, 2013, Hong Kong was the same place that it had been, that we all remember. But what changed was Xi Jinping, who cracked down everywhere. I think the leadership was worried that things were slipping out of their control. And just as they cracked down on civil society in China, and any dissent in China, and in Xinjiang, and in Tibet, so they cracked down in Hong Kong. And the problem for Hong Kong was it represented all the things which the Chinese Communist Party today think represent an existential threat to their continuing hold of power.
I was there at the time, and it seemed to me there was this idea that perhaps as China opened up economically, it would also, become slightly more liberal politically. That was flawed optimism, do you think?
Yes, it was, and it was often based on a misreading of what was happening in China. After the Chinese had joined the World Trade Organization, and I was one of the European commissioners who helped to negotiate the European side of that, Tony Blair, with his wonderful hey chaps optimism, said that the Chinese road to democracy was now unstoppable. Well, something stopped. And I think that it's been true all along, that a lot of our assessments of China have represented wishful thinking.
Do you think China under Xi Jinping is a threat to the world order in a similar way to Russia, in the sense of possibly invading Taiwan? Do you think it's a similar threat?
It could be. What I think it is a threat to an international rules-based order, whether it's economic or social or whatever. Because there is one thing which is absolutely clear. My main critic when I was in Hong Kong, who was very critical of my attempts to do a limited amount to entrench democracy and protection of human rights and so on, my main critic used to say about the Chinese leadership, they may be thuggish dictators, he used to say, but they're men of their word. Now we know that part of that is true, the first bit, but the second bit is not true. They break treaties, they break agreements right, left and centre. And one of them is the agreement on Hong Kong. I don't believe that they probably represent the same threat that Russia does in the Ukraine, though it's true to say that they've been an accomplice to what is happening in Ukraine. But they are more likely to launch an invasion of Taiwan than was perhaps the case in the past, because they see Taiwan as being an affront to their grievance-based nationalism. And I would guess that if things started to go badly wrong in China, and if they started to worry about their control over the public, they might think that was a way of getting support. I don't myself think it'll happen. I think they're too smart.
Boris Johnson says that they will continue to hold China to its commitments, or try to hold China to its commitments on Hong Kong, Do you think that's possible? And what should the British government or the international community be doing?
It's true that we should continue to call out whenever China does anything that breaks its commitments in Hong Kong. And it's true, particularly true, that we should work with others, US, Australia, European Union, Canada, to put pressure on China over Hong Kong. All that is true. Whether they will take very much notice, I'm not sure. But we should make sure that they're paying a price for not taking notice.
And just finally, is there a problem asking China to adhere to international agreements when, on the face of it, the government at the moment is threatening, certainly, to breach an international agreement over the Northern Ireland Protocol?
Of course, that makes our position morally less sound than it should be. I don't honestly think the two things are quite comparable, but nevertheless, we would be on stronger ground if we were making it clear that we didn't breach international agreements ourselves, because sooner or later, if and when we do breach international agreements, it will come back and hit us like a boomerang.